Okay, this is week 2. I'm going to go over the 2 lab time. This here is a step-by-step that you can download, which should give you the step-by-step of the creation of the app. And so you can follow the steps here. And I'll do it with you here real quick on a quick podcast on creation. First thing, you'll create a brand new Android Studio project. You'll select an empty project. Click Finish. And we're going to type in replace my application with week 2 application. So let me go ahead and fire up Android Studio. And I'm going to call mine week 2 application demo, because I've already created one called week 2 application already. Also, just to confirm, make sure it's a language is Kotlin, and I've got mine set to the ice cream sandwich. It's the API 15 Android 4.0.3, which will run on 100% of devices. And the reason I've set that is if you go higher than that, then it's less and less devices it runs on 100%. So that's what I've got mine set to. It's not to say you can't run yours on a newer version. That's just one I have mine on that I recommend. That way it runs on 100% of Android devices. Click Finish. While that's finishing, I will go back to the step-by-step. One of the first things we're going to do is go to Layout, and we're going to go over to the layout for the activity main to see the actual screen. And we will click on that layout to see the GUI of the app. We'll go to 25% view and delete the initial hello label. So I'm going to go there. I'm going to go into the not quite done with mine. There we go. I just finished. Expand my app folder. And I'll go to the res layout and activity main. And I'm going to bring this up to 25%. There we go. And I'm going to bring the screen down a little bit lower here. So I can see the whole view of the phone screen. Click on hello. Label, get rid of that. And we're going to add a text box by going to the text area. Click and drag the plain text to the top center. This is the most popular used for input. You'll notice when I drag it into the layout, it has some guides that show up. The center guide will show up as it gets centered. As I go up towards the top, another one will show up meaning you don't want to go any higher than that because of the battery icons and the icon for the signal strength. So roughly about right there is where you want to keep that one. Next, we're going to rename that to TXT name and the ID over here on the property. We're also going to go ahead and get rid of the TXT or the text property name. And I'm going to click on this icon here to get fewer attributes. So I renamed it TXT name. For the hint, I'm going to put in here enter full name so the user knows what to enter in. Next, we'll go ahead and drag a button below the TXT name. So as I drag it, you'll notice the guide shows up on the right, to the right of the text view above, or the text box above. And I'm going to put it about right there. I'm going to rename this one once it shows up here. Button to BTN submit. And go down to the text property and type in the word submit. Next, I'm going to add a text view below the button and rename that to TXT view, from TXT view to TXT show. And this one we don't have to worry about right now. I want it to put it right about there, centered. Release it. And I want to change the width on this one to just like 200 width. So to do that, I'm going to click on this show more attributes, or view all attributes. And I want to go to the width of this. We can do it there, or let me come up here. Layout width is fine. We'll do it there. Layout width 200, and then press the enter key. And it should change it. You'll notice it shoves it to the right a little bit. So if I click and drag it to the left to center it, there we go, about right there. And we're going to rename this one to TXT show. Also going to get rid of the text property, so nothing's in there initially. Let's go ahead and do a file, save all. Next, we're going to select all the objects, and we're going to do a click infer constraints button. So just take your mouse and select overall, and then up here, we're going to infer constraints. It's going to add all the constraints needed for the app to run successfully and for these objects to show up successfully. Next, we're going to go to main activity and start entering in some code for this to make it faster for me, since I've already done this. One of the things in the lab is a link to the main activity KT file in GitHub. And I've already got all the code for that, so I'm going to use some of this as we go through. So I'm going to go to under the app menu, app folder, Java, and then the first EDU, the first folder, is the app name folder called App Windows or Week 2 Application Demo. We want to expand that one. Double click on main activity, and here is where we'll begin adding code into, when the app first runs, it always runs it in this onCreate saved onCreate function first. And so in here, we have to put in all the declarations for binding our objects that we just added in the activity main. So all these objects we've added, we're now going to add in the code to where we can initialize those objects and then manipulate them for our purpose. So first thing we got to do is declare some variables. 3 variables we're going to declare for the txt name, btn show, and the show text box. Next, focusing the name, txt name, when the app runs to where the user sees that focused and can begin entering in their name. You'll notice as I'm putting this code in here, it automatically brings the imports in to the code on the KT file. When the user taps submit, that takes the name entered and puts it in the txt show, clears the text name, and hides a keyboard. So I'm gonna do that. And right now you'll notice in red is a hide the keyboard because we've not yet do not have that in the function yet. So that completes the on create. We're going to need to put the hide keyboard, and you'll notice when I click on this left bracket up here, you notice the right bracket is selected too. So all of this is one function. The on create or the hide keyboard needs to be put at the outside of this function. So I'm going to put it right there, and here's the code for the on keyboard or hide keyboard. And you'll notice I'm not highlighting the last right bracket. That's already in there. Paste that. And every app that you create pretty much is going to have that hide functionality. And while we're there, I'm going to go ahead and in every one of the assignments, it'll have a need help code, use code help. In there, some things you've already went over on week 1 on setting up Android Studio. But if you scroll down further, it goes over how to bind objects, which we're doing this week. We'll be doing from now on, how to do a button click, which we're doing this week as well. But the next one was hiding keyboard. There's 2 functions actually that needs to be in every app. One is this function here called hide keyboard, which hides the keyboard from being popped up when you're in the text input field. The other one I've added recently is this find view by ID, and what it does is basically anything that's as a user taps the screen anywhere, it's going to fire the hide keyboard. So this one is not currently in the app that we've got right now, but I'm gonna go ahead and put it in there just to show you. And this also needs to be inside the first on create function. And I usually put it right before the last right bracket. It actually says in the comments to do that, place a code before the right before the last right bracket in the function on create. And we've already put in there the hide keyboard, but just so you know, it's in that help file for each week is the function for hide keyboard, 2 functions for hide keyboard. This one goes inside the on create before the last right bracket. This one here will go before the very last right bracket in the class main activity, which is this one right here. And every time you create an Android app in the main activity, it creates a class called main activity. Also in this help file is things like creating a new activity page, adding navigation, adding code to go to a new activity page, which we'll do as the semester goes on. So that's the link that you can use when you're needing to add need help and also needing to add the hide keyboard function. So I'll go back to the PDF here we had open. So I got all the code typed in. And by the way, on this PDF, you can expand it up, make it bigger if you want to make it easier to see as you're viewing it by clicking on the plus symbol there. Then we're going to go ahead and click on Activity Main, save it, and run the app. Go back to Activity Main. I just do this to make sure everything looks okay on the app. Nothing's changed. I'm going to go ahead and do a Save All. And let's go ahead and hit the Run App button. I'm going to select my virtual device, which is a Pixel. I'm going to go ahead and start the emulator for Pixel. The Gradle is going to compile all the code, and it'll take a moment the first time you run it. After you run it the first time, it's not going to take that long in between changes. One of the good things you might do, or the correct ways to do it, a good practice, is when you go to create an app for the first time, before you make any changes, to run the app. I did not do that in this demo, but that's a good practice just to make sure before you make any changes on any app that you're creating in Android Studio, it's good to know you can start first and everything runs. And there's two reasons for that. One is to make sure everything runs. Second is to get the emulator up and running. That way, when you do start making changes, it's much quicker to make those changes or for the emulator to run thereafter. So 0 errors, that's good on the Gradle. And now we should be getting a prompt for the app to pop up in our emulator in just a second. And there's a week 2 application demo. You notice I went right to the TXT name, has my button and the hidden label right now because we don't have anything in there. So I'm going to go ahead and type in my name. And you'll notice when I hit the keyboard, it types up. When I type in or click in here, it types up the keyboard. If I click away, the keyboard hides, and that's that hide function that we just put in. Does that. So I'm going to go ahead and put in full name, hit submit, and you'll notice it showed up in the label, and it also fired the hide keyboard again. I put my cursor, and it also cleared the TXT name. We'll put my cursor back in there again, click here, anywhere away from it, comes away. I'm going to put in a new name just to show you. We'll put Tom Smith. Right. Next thing you want to do, and I have you one of the things in pretty much each week from here on out, is starting next week, actually be using the appetizio function. And we have an example here of what that looks like. But before we do that, one of the things that you can do is export to zip, file export to zip and submit in this area for this week. And I'll show you how to do that first. So I'll go ahead and stop, hitting the red stop button here. File export to zip file. And you'll notice it's going to put it right in the folder where the app is located at. And I'll expand mine out to show you here. In the title bar of the app, you'll also notice where mine is in my download folder, week 2 application demo. So if I go there, week 2 application demo, and that's where the original file is for that. We'll go back one, click on my modified. Looks like it's put in this task Firebase master for some reason. There it is, the one I just created. So if I go back up here, you can change the path on that, by the way. If I go to File, Export to Zip, I can change a path up here to something else. So if I come down here and go to Download, and let's say I wanted to put it on my desktop, I could do that. And I'll click on my desktop and click it there. And now that file should have been created on my desktop. There it is. And that's the one that you'd upload into week 2 in here. I'm going to go ahead and show you too a couple other things. One is the tester for Aptizio. Under this example link is going to launch the Aptizio simulator. Nice thing about Aptizio, it's free, number one, to sign up for. You can upload your APK, which I'll show you how to do in a second, and then you can play it. So in mine here, I've got a number of the apps we're using for this semester in here. And one of them being the example for this week. And there it is. And this is running in an online environment that you can test and have others test. There are some limitations. It doesn't allow you to do video or photos or audio, but just basic layout functionality, it will do that, even database related type stuff. So you'll sign up for this starting this week if you want to and play with it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that once you've signed up. You want to go to the build menu in Android Studio, and you can build an APK two ways. An APK basically is an executable for Android Studio. Those of you familiar with Windows mainly, you know, executables are generally .exe for applications. In mobile, for Android, it's APK. For iOS, it's a .app file. And so we're going to build one that's not signed. We want to just open. So we're going to click on this build APK. And when you build an APK, you can actually not only upload this to Aptizio, but if you do have an Android device, you can send it to that device via email and click on it and install it. You will be getting, by the way, while we're talking about that, around midterm, I will be getting in the Android devices that I mentioned in the enrollment of the course and in the promos of the course. The students that successfully complete the course will get an Android device as part of the completion. So that should be coming around midterm. So after your spring break, basically I'll be contacting everybody to come pick that up at a certain location on campus. So just be aware of that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and build APK. Once it gets through building, you'll notice at the bottom here it's executing the task. There's going to be a link that shows up here on the bottom right of Android Studio that shows us where the APK is. But it puts it in the same location of the project, wherever the project's located at. Okay, so if I click on, notice down here it says build APK, it was successful. If I click locate, it brings me right to the folder where it's at, and that's the name of it. It's always going to be called app-debug.apk and roughly around 2 megs. And so in order to upload that in this environment, all you have to do is click upload in Aptizio, select file. You'll go to the location of the application. And this was week 2 application demo. It's going to be found in the app folder. And it's going to go to the build. outputs, APK. It'll always be there. And then debug. So I'll expand that a little bit more to see that. Wherever the application is at in your computer, then the app folder, build, outputs, APK, and then finally debug. And I'm going to go and click on the APK file, click open. Aptizio will upload it and show us the progress of that selected file. Once it gets finished uploading, we'll go ahead and click the view and run the app or play the app, test it to see if it works, and that's how you test your. One way you can show your app to other people who don't have Android or to your team to where they can quickly access your updated app without having to install it. So this is a finished. Scroll down, here it is. Click the view button or view link. Click play. Put in my first name, last name, and voila, that is done. Now, if we wanted to update this one app, say you updated the APK, you can definitely do that by just going to the dashboard, going to the name of that app. Here's the one I just uploaded. Go to manage and scroll down till you get to the select file. You go to select file, do the same thing all over again, and update the APK. And that way you don't have to upload a new one each time. You can actually manage the existing one that you have. One of the other ways you can, that's cool about Aptizio, you can embed this in a web page by clicking in the embed link. And then this actually can be embedded in a website. It actually runs as an embedded mode with the device. The other thing you can do too with this is I'll go to view to show you. Down at the bottom of the view, you can change the different devices that it can play upon. Okay. Right now, this is set to the Android 8, but you could test it in other as well. You go to Android 9, all the way up. You can change it from black and white, different types of phone, Nexus phones. So just one cool way to test your Android device and Android Studio apps. All right, so that concludes week 2 helps. Hopefully that helps and with this week. And one last thing, I have also added a challenge to each one of the assignments. Just 20 points extra for creativity, adding more text, logic, readability, formatting, stuff like that. Images for the GUI-based Kotlin apps in Android Studio. If you do add extra, just please add a message to your submission for the assignments each week so I can look at that and give you the needed points. So this one, when you upload it, you're going to upload a file upload. When you upload a file here in this environment, one of the things you're able to do, I'm going to switch this to student view to where you can see this, or I can see it as you see it. So I'm going to go to lab time and submit. So here, in the comments, is where you'd want to put that information that you made. You added extra things to it. Just tell them a little bit of what you added, like say, add a new function, or I added an image, or whatever the logic might be. So you'll choose your zip file, add your comment that you added extra credit items, and these were the items I added, and then submit it. Right? If you have any questions, as always, make sure and follow the course success logic we talked about in week 1, which is make sure and cover your bases on you've done your reading, you watched the podcast, you went over things like that. Then if you're still stuck, shoot me an email with your code so I can help you. And let's have a great week.